Hi, thank you for joining me for today's class. As the title of the class suggests, today is all about getting out of your head, freeing up your hand, and just drawing with what you've got at home. So while I'm chatting with you now, I'd love for you to make yourself comfortable, put in some music in the background, pour yourself a glass of wine or tea, and start to collect some of the materials we're going to need today. I'm going to set up a still life scene with some fruit and veg. So I'd love for you to head to your kitchen and grab a variety of fruit and veg, whatever you've got. I'm going to be using a lemon and a lemon cut in half, an apple, and some beautiful tomatoes, as well as this artichoke I got from the markets. And then I'm also going to add to the background of my still life scene these two vessels. So if you have a wine bottle, a vase, that could be great to add to the background. And then all you're going to need is quite a few sheets of paper and a pencil. If you can't find a pencil, then a pen is completely fine. I'm going to take you through a few different drawing exercises with a focus on continuous line drawing, but mainly aimed at getting you out of your head. I hope you enjoy. And just so you know, this is what I'm going to be looking at today. This is my little still life setup. I've put my fruit and veg on an elevated surface, putting it over two coffee table books and covering it with a piece of material. So you can grab a table runner or towel or tablecloth. It just sort of helps you look at your fruit and veg at a more comfortable eye level. And that is my pencil and paper. Today we're going to start by freeing up a hand with some scribbling. So what you're going to do is grab your pencil, your paper, and for the next 30 to 60 seconds, we're not going to lift our pencil off the page. So I'm going to start by literally just scribbling along the page, freeing up my hand, getting into my body, and just simply getting used to drawing and using a pencil or a pen, whatever you've got. There is no method. Just start to squiggle along the page. See where your hand takes you. Some of you may not really be used to drawing at all, so see where it's comfortable to hold the pencil and use it as a time just to get to know your materials. Do some big sweeping motions, some small little squiggles. And I'm going to start to wrap mine up and find where I started my line and loop it back up. And that is your first drawing for the day. Now we're going to start with some other exercises that are intended to get you out of your head and just enjoy the process of drawing rather than the finished product. So if you are right-handed, please put your pencil in your left hand. If you're left-handed, put it in your right. We're going to draw with our less dominant hand now, looking at our scene. So I'm looking at my scene of fruit and veg in front of me. And with my left hand, I'm going to do a contour drawing. So a contour drawing is where we look at the outline of the items, the objects, and we just sort of identify the main shapes, almost like a cartoon. So I'm going to start by drawing the stem of my lemon. And I encourage you to start drawing your scene with your less dominant side with me now. Identify a bit of the light coming in there. We're going to be here for about a minute. I'm drawing my lemon cut in half. One thing I would definitely encourage you to look at now is really look at each object when you're drawing it. When we draw, we have a tendency to draw with our mind rather than our eyes. So we might be looking at a lemon and drawing it perfectly oval because in our mind, lemons are oval. But really, when we look at our lemon in real life, we'll see that it's actually not perfect at all. It's got all sorts of bumps and edges, and I really invite you to take a look at all those little imperfections, which really make it interesting and sculptural. I'll do my vessels at the back here. The beauty of working with your less dominant side is you're forced to sort of get out of your head, and it's really hard to have control with your less dominant side. When you let go of control, often your artwork's more expressive, and I think can be more interesting. So if you're getting all these bumpy edges and squiggles and you're struggling to sort of take control of your pencil, you're on the right path. I'm gonna get my tomato here. Go around and get my apple. Down here. Capture the light. Might just sort of get a bit of the table there. A bit more light on my items. And that is my left-hand drawing. So if you're still going with yours, feel free to pause the video and keep going. Otherwise, you can move along with me. So now what we're going to do is put your pencil back in your dominant hand, mine being my right hand. And now I'm going to draw the same scene, but not looking at my page. For the duration of the drawing, I'm only going to look at the still life in front of me. And I'm going to trust that you are going to do the same. You're not going to look down, and just trust in the process. So let's do this. I am looking at my still life, not looking at my page, and I'm going to start with exactly how I started on the other side with my lemon. This is going to be quicker for sure because we don't have our page as a cue. Just sort of what's in front of us. I quite like being quite free with these types of drawings. I come and do my tomato. Tomato. And my apple. And there we go. That is my not looking drawing. And I actually think I quite like it. As I said before, the moment we let go of perfectionism, we allow space for expression. And that's a really fun territory. Okay, now we're going to take it to the next level. And this time, not only are we not going to look at our page, but we are not going to look at our still life. So we're going to close our eyes and draw the whole scene again from memory and not open our eyes until we are done. Okay, so I'm closing my eyes and I'm hoping you're doing the same. And I'm going to start exactly where I started before. I'm going to draw the stalk of the lemon, then the lemon itself, my cut open lemon. I'm going to go back here and draw my vessel. Second vessel, I've gone off the page. I'm going to go in and do my artichoke. I hope your eyes are closed and you're not just laughing at my drawing. We're going to do some tomatoes. And I'm going to open my eyes because I am done. And that is my beautiful still life with my eyes closed. This got a little crowded, but I'm quite enjoying this moment. And now you can keep going with that and hit pause, or you can move on to the next exercise with me. We're going to now start to focus in on continuous line drawing. Continuous line drawing, as you saw in the first scribble exercise, is where your pencil does not lift off the page until you have finished the drawing. So some of you may have seen my continuous line drawing faces in my art. I love continuous line drawing because I love the challenge of capturing something in a single line. And today we're going to keep it really simple and just stick with fruit and veg. Maybe in my next class we'll start to look at faces. So starting with the lemon. I'm going to start by identifying the main shapes and looking at the lemon with my eyes, not my mind. So really focusing in on those tiny little edges. Start with the branch, stem, and then getting the outline of the shape. Mine's on an angle, seeing that there's lots of jagged edges. Loop back around here, finish off my stem, and that is my lemon. Now I'm going to focus on the cut in half lemon, which will be a little trickier because it's sort of got more of a 3D element to it and more intricate on the inside. So here we go. I go from the side. I'm going to come down. This is where it gets a bit tricky. I'm going to start to go into the sort of fleshy, juicy part of the lemon and identify those ridges on the inside. Come back down here. And that is the inside of my lemon. There are lots of ways I could have approached that, and you can keep exploring and exploring. Another way I could have done that with less line is sort of come from the side here and gone straight into the front, looped around, and instead of doing those ridges, just gone straight in for those little triangular shapes, I suppose. So yeah, play around with lots of different ways and styles. That's much more abstract. Just encourage you to start to play around with different ways of approaching it. You could even start from the middle. Don't love that one so much. It's a bit funky. But yeah, just have some fun with it and explore. And now I'm going to move on to my next fruit or veg, which is going to be an apple. So yeah, let's start. I'm going to start again with the stem. Come around, get that little ridge at the front. So I've done exactly what I encourage you not to do and done a stereotypical apple, and when really my apple is quite round. It's not that sort of perfect heart apple shape. So I'm going to do that again, looking at my apple more closely. Start with the stem, and then yeah, it's more of a circular shape. It's a bit square. Something you can do as well is start to introduce little highlights by cutting into the apple like that. So that's sort of meant to be your little, where the light hits the apple. And you can sort of experiment with different ways of doing that. The size of the slither, the shape of the slither. There's your apple. Next, we're going to move on to tomato. So I've got these really beautiful, interesting tomatoes, which are really fun and sculptural. I'm going to start with the leaves. Again, trying not to do the stereotypical tomato and rather the tomato that's in front. So there are some really thin little cuts, some big little, these are my cuts, I don't know why I'm calling them cuts, but just encourage you to look at the intricacies. Another way I could do that is like this. Start off with my little leaves and sort of cut into the tomato like this. So here I was doing a loop to go between the different contours of the tomato. Here I was sort of cutting into so the line never touches the line or overlaps the line. So you can sort of play around with which one you prefer. I think I prefer this one. I'm just going to do it one more time. Nice and quick. Voila, that is the tomato. Okay, now we're going to move on to our still life scene. So we're going to try and do that whole scene with one line. So again, I might take this fast, I might be taking this too slow for you, so just do it in your own time. And feel free to pause at any point. Okay, so I'm going to start with, again, my lemon. Loop in, do the cutouts of my lemon. This is going to get a little tricky when you're going from shape to shape, but it's our first attempt, so we're going to be patient and just sort of use it as a time to play. Definitely going to be doing that differently next time. Go in and do my apple. And start to do my artichoke. And there we go, that is your continuous line drawing scene. And now I'm going to try that again. Looking at the areas that I like, quite like this open lemon, quite like this tomato, and then the areas where I could improve on next time. There's a bit too much going on here. That's a bit too abstract. And I think I can approach this side differently. So I'm going to go again. Artichoke, very tricky. Didn't really leave much space for my vessels. So I think that's an improvement. Prefer this area down here. I could still work on the area back. Yeah, let's try again. I might try by starting doing the back first. Vessels first. So each time you can try starting somewhere different. This is already working out better. And that is my favourite so far, for sure. There's some things I missed out. I didn't have the stem of the lemon, some of the details I would have had in the apple perhaps, but just overall I prefer it as a drawing, and there were slightly cleaner connections between each object, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to sign. And now I'm going to turn the sketch into more of a finished drawing by tracing the pencil with my ink brush. I'm not going to do it in one continuous line, but rather slowly follow the line and play around with the thinness and thickness of my brush. I've sped up the speed here just to show you so that you can now go and do this in your own time. But what this does is separate our favorite sketch, or the sketch we connected with most, with the other sketches, and makes it a little bit more special, perhaps something that we might put up on the fridge or in the frame. So I'd love to see what you've created here today, and I hope you've enjoyed this and gotten out of your head a little bit more.